All right, quick little live stream here before the start of March Madness. I know everyone is excited about that. I am as well. So, let's pass the time until that starts in about 20, 25 minutes. The Knicks, oh, man, they suffered another worst loss of the season. Not to say that that's happened too often as of late, but there have been multiple terrible losses for the Knicks this year. A few come to mind. The Cavs earlier on in the year, the one time the Knicks actually had a chance to beat a top 3 team in the NBA. They lost that game. The Jazz game in Utah earlier on the season when the Knicks just got absolutely obliterated. Last night might take the cake, though. And it's like, at this point, you heard after the game, Josh Hart said, essentially, I mean, listen, what happened was BS. The fact that the Knicks had a long West Coast road trip, a 5-game road trip, came back to the Garden, and then had to go out to San Antonio to play a game. It's bullshit, 100%. But I'm not going to sit here and make excuses like Josh Hart did last night. I mean, you look at the box score, and this guy, Sandro, I'm not even going to pronounce his last name. They call him Mamu. Come on. This guy, 34 points, 13 for 14 from the field, 7 for 7 from 3. I mean, this type of stuff only happens against the Knicks. So last night, I mean, listen, that is as big of an outlier as you will ever see. It might be the biggest outlier in NBA history. It's the most points scored in NBA history by a guy who played less than 20 minutes. Oh, of course that had to happen against the Knicks. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and say it was a must-win game. You're playing the freaking San Antonio Spurs without their 2 best players, and you lose that game. And it angers me to an extreme extent to hear Josh Hart again, not only just blaming the travel schedule for the loss, but also saying, oh, we didn't have Brunson. The Knicks starting lineup without Brunson is still a top 12, top 13 starting lineup in the NBA. Like, there shouldn't be any excuses. And I look at this game and I see a pattern. And before this, I kind of thought it was just against the top teams in the league. The Knicks playing extremely poorly to start a game and then having to claw their way back later on in the game because they were dilly-dallying the first 24 minutes of the game. Last night, we saw it again. The Knicks, I mean, listen, they scored 43 points in the first half, which, pathetic, not good. Spurs scored 67 points in the first half. The Knicks go into the half down 24. If the Knicks came back last night, it looked like they were going to do that. I believe they cut it to 8. I think that was the lowest deficit the Knicks faced in the second half last night. It would have been the biggest comeback in franchise history, 28 points. So, like, it's an insurmountable deficit. I don't care who you're playing. Even in the current state of the NBA, where no lead feels safe, 28 points, even against the Spurs. These are NBA players at the end of the day. I mean, the offensive output from the Knicks starters, not named Karl Anthony Towns, specifically in that first half, was pathetic. Up until 3-4 minutes left in the first half, the only Knicks starter who had a field goal was Karl Anthony Towns. That's just inexcusable. You can't have that in a game. And another stinker of a game from Josh Hart, 2 points in 35 minutes. And again, it really bothers me after the game, the excuses. I mean, Josh Hart shoots the ball 4 times in the game. Like, come on, man. You're not even looking to score. You're not even looking to score. So, I mean, listen, there were plenty of negatives from the game last night. Am I going to sit here and tell you the season's over because the Knicks came out and put up a stinker against the San Antonio Spurs in San Antonio? No. And I see people constantly all over social media blowing things out of proportion. Last night was bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Last night was freaking bad. But to say that the Knicks are any worse than we thought they were just because of that game, I'm not going to go to that. I'm not going to go to that length. I'm not going to say that. Josh Hart's been terrible lately, though. He's been terrible. You look at these stats. I mean, against the Warriors, his worst game of the season, 0 points in 39 minutes. And then last night wasn't much better. 2 points in 35 minutes. So, listen, I want to highlight there's two positives in this game. That's the fact that Karl-Anthony Towns played extremely well again. He's kind of on a heater, I think you could say at this point. He kind of injured his hand last night, came back in, played pretty well in the second half. So not concerning, until it actually becomes concerning. But I think the one thing that I need to see from Karl-Anthony Towns, I'm sure you would agree with this, is more three-point shots. I mean, the Knicks lack a volume shooter. Clearly, I mean, they lost Dante DiVincenzo. That was their main volume three-point guy. You look at the remaining guys on this team, who the hell is that guy? Cam Payne comes off the bench. He'll take 3 or 4 threes, which is a lot considering he plays 15 minutes a game. But you got to look to Karl-Anthony Towns. He's been very aggressive off the dribble, very good at getting into the paint, finishing through contact. But the one thing that I need to see from him that I have not seen practically all year long is high volume three-point shooting in each game. He's shooting 43% from three. You should be taking 10 threes a game. I don't care who's defending you. I don't care how big of a size advantage you have against the guy who is defending you. Take the freaking threes. Shoot the ball. I mean, Cat is having his best offensive season since 2021, 2022. His best three-point shooting season of his career. Again, 43%. He has more rebounds per game. More steals per game. He's shooting the ball better from three. Again, as I just said, than any other year in his career. You got to start taking more threes. You simply have to. The Knicks need it. They need it. I don't care if his three-point rating goes down to 40 before the end of the year. You'd rather him take 12 threes, hit 5 or 4, and then take 5 threes and hit 2. The Knicks need more volume shooting. First off, without Jalen Brunson, Deuce McBride has been extremely inconsistent. The defense, obviously, from this Knicks team has been a lot better than with Jalen Brunson on the floor. I've said it a million times. The Knicks, with Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns in the same lineup, I don't know if that's sustainable. I don't, long term. You see how much better the defense is when Karl-Anthony Towns is playing alongside Mitchell Robinson. Cat cannot defend opposing centers. He just can't. And I think it helps him a lot when the defensive line, and this is not even just when Mitchell Robinson's on the floor, it's also just when Deuce McBride plays in place of Jalen Brunson. It's so much easier when there's not just one, but two guys that could be involved in pick and roll action that are completely incompetent at defending the pick and roll. Jalen Brunson does a good job as a team defender. But again, as I keep saying here, when you have two guys and you could put each of them on an island and attack them and attack them and attack them, it eventually comes back to bite you in the ass. When you're playing some of the best one-on-one guys in the league, when you're playing a Jason Tatum, when you're playing a Donovan Mitchell, those guys are going to cook you. When you have, two guys in the lineup that are inept defenders and who rely on the rest of the guys in the lineup to cover up their ineptitude. A big positive, a huge positive, and something that really has me feeling good about the Knicks' chances going forward is how well Mitchell Robinson played last night. The last two games, guys, hasn't Mitch looked like his old self? I mean, he was a little shaky at first, particularly on the offensive end, but his last two games, double-digit points. Last night, he had 13 points in 17 minutes. Shot 5 for 6 from the field. In his last two games combined, he's 10 for 13 from the field. Shooting 68.8% this year. Classic Mitch. What I like to see the most is the rebounding numbers back to where they were. 9 rebounds against the Heat, 11 rebounds in 17 minutes against the Spurs. He came in earlier on in that game for Karl-Anthony Towns, who was by the way, the only guy producing offensively, and was the number one option on offense with how bad OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Deuce McBride, and Josh Hart were playing. He came in and actually provided offensively. And what you're also seeing is in 3 of the last 4 games that Mitch has played, he's had 2 blocks. So not only are you getting more consistent offensive play from him, but defensively, he's becoming a menace again. And I love to see it. He looks like he has that bounce back. And listen, when you come fresh off of again, another leg injury, he's had a multitude of those throughout his career. It's going to be tough to work yourself back into game shape. Multiple people were saying, and I saw it all over my timeline, for the first 9 to 10 games that Mitch has played, people were correctly calling out his lack of physical stamina, running up and down the court. It looked like any time he got into the game, he looked dead after 5 minutes. Last night, he looked a lot better. He looked like each game he's increasing his stamina, and he's getting back into game shape, which a lot of people have said was going to happen. I said it was going to happen as well. I was just concerned about a potential lack of athleticism after, again, the myriad of injuries that he has faced throughout his career. Lower body injuries, too. Those can hamper people. If you remember, Mitch, he took the gap year after graduating high school, didn't play college basketball, came in, and might have been a top 5 athletic guy in the league. Like, he was jumping through the rim, through the hoop. He was jumping through the gym. He looked amazing athletically. I haven't seen that. He's 26 years old. Guys are never as bouncy as they were their first 2 or 3 years. And again, he's faced a bunch of injuries. But his length, man, I mean, it is unduplicated in this league. He's 7'4". He plays like his wingspan is 7'4". He plays like his wingspan is 7'11". I mean, seriously, with his ability to get up and rebound the ball, I mean, he is so adept at grabbing offensive rebounds. The Knicks needed this. I mean, how much have people been saying this throughout the year? How badly the Knicks needed Mitchell Robinson back after they lost Isaiah Hartenstein. And now the ability to play Mitch alongside Karl-Anthony Towns, it changes everything. This team is so much more versatile when Mitchell Robinson's playing versus when he was injured earlier on this year. So much different. So much more versatile. And I'd like to see Mitch get more minutes. He only played 17 minutes last night. Only 17. He played extremely well. And it's like the one silver, besides Cat playing well, it's the one silver lining in this game. Mitchell Robinson, one of the few guys in this game to have a positive plus minus. Josh Hart was by far the worst player of the game. By far. And it should infuriate you that after the game, he's coming up with excuses. They weren't prepared mentally. They weren't prepared physically. They had a day off in between games. They had a freaking day off. So I don't want to hear that. It kind of adds to this whole idea of this Knicks team lacks the toughness that the Knicks team last year had. I mean, those comments completely play into that sentiment about this organization as a whole. Since they got rid of Julius Randle, since they lost Isaiah Hartenstein, you can't be saying shit like that. It's honestly pathetic. And again, it's one game. I'm trying not to overreact. The Knicks have bounced back from worse this season. Mitchell Robinson, the one big question mark on this team, has looked solid. I can't fathom people out there saying this Knicks team is not good because of what we saw last night. If that's the hill that you're going to die on, seek help. Seek help. You know, on one hand, I could sit here and criticize Josh Hart for saying what he did last night. And on the other, I could say that there's some validity to what he said. It just shouldn't be the case. Like, yeah, it might be true, but you can't come out and say that. You think Jalen Brunson would ever say anything like that? No, absolutely not. And I hope Jalen Brunson, behind closed doors, grilled Josh Hart for coming out and blatantly saying something that stupid and that pathetic. I said it before, there was no reason why the Knicks shouldn't have went undefeated in the 4-game stretch they had. With the Heat, 7 games in a row they lost. Now they've lost 9 games in a row. The Spurs without their 2 best players. The Hornets tonight. And who the heck did the Knicks have next? Give me a second. I completely blanked out. It's another terrible team in the league. I think it's the Wizards. It's the Wizards. One of the easiest 4-game stretches the Knicks will have all season long. And they lost an entirely winnable game last night. A game that, if the Knicks didn't go down 28 points, they would have won. They would have won easily with how they responded in the second half. It was too much to overcome. And the Knicks had to face a generational performance from a guy in which name I'm not even going to try to pronounce. Sandro Mamu. That's all he's going to get. I mean, you see it so often, these guys with generational performances against the Knicks. Usually you see it at the Garden, not necessarily on the road. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? He puts up his average points, which is like 5.5 points per game. The Knicks win this game easily. So what are you going to do? You can come up with excuses all day long. That's still a winnable game, no matter how well this guy shot from the field. You know, no matter how many points this guy put up, which, I mean, I still can't believe he put up 34 points in under 20 minutes. I can't believe that he set an NBA record last night. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do besides come out and look more prepared for these games? Happening against the Heat, he just sucked. And they've blown like 20 fourth quarter leads or second half leads. That was pathetic. And he came out, started the game 12-0. And 5 minutes later, you look, and they're down in the game. So not every team is going to play as poorly after a solid start like the Heat. And this is becoming a concerning trend, game in and game out. The Knicks do not look prepared in the early minutes of the game without Jalen Brunson. And it's been now 2 weeks since Jalen Brunson went down with an injury. So you'd like to see a positive update regarding that. You've got talking heads all over sports media, specifically Udonis Haslem. I think he's very triggered by the Knicks destroying the Heat the other night. He's coming out speaking in like a different language when it comes to the Knicks. I mean, that's crazy. I try to let that stuff go in one ear out the other. Udonis Haslem is the guy we're listening to. Now he's saying that Jalen Brunson's ankle won't be good until the summer. What the hell do you know? Are you a doctor? Have you talked to Jalen yourself? F off, man. F off. I don't want to do that. Again, I said I'm trying to let that go. Trying to let it go. But I cannot see another terrible start from the Knicks. I don't care if it's on a back-to-back. You're playing the freaking Hornets. 17-51. Bottom 3 record in the NBA. The excuses should not be there. I don't want another pathetic press conference after the game from Josh Hart where he's making excuses as to why the Knicks lost a winnable game. I don't want to see that. If you want to consider yourself a championship contender and you want people to believe that, the excuses cannot be that pathetic. All right, so that'll do it. I'm sure everyone's clamoring to start watching March Madness. Enjoy the best 2 days of the year in terms of sport watching during the day. I will talk to you all tomorrow with hopefully better things to discuss after the Knicks hopefully beat the Hornets, one of the worst teams in the NBA tonight. I'll talk to you all later. Peace.